What if a nursing college cared for its students the same way nurses cared for their patients? What if the focus was on keeping students in, not weeding them out? What would happen? Something extraordinary. Join us, and together we can make a difference. Chamberlain University College of Nursing. Extraordinary care, extraordinary nurses.
Attend Chamberlain's North Brunswick campus open house September 21st at 4 p.m. Now enrolling in our 3-year BSN degree program. Register at chamberlain.edu.
Welcome to Define You Radio. Class is in session with your host, the Southern Belle of Bold, Valencia Griffin-Wallace. Are you ready to unapologetically build your confidence, achieve goals, and design a life worth living? Learn the life lessons and strategies to define your life, money, and business. Pens and papers ready? Class is now in session.
Hello, and welcome to Define You Radio. Classes in session, where you get the tips, strategies, and life lessons from queens who have defined their life. I'm your host, the Southern Belle of Bold, Valencia Griffin-Wallace, and if this is your first time catching Define You Radio, thank you so much for listening, and welcome to the family. Make sure you follow and connect with the show on Blog Talk Radio and Define You Radio's Facebook page for updates and more. Class is always in session. Also, we are on countdown mode for Define You Live, taking place November 11th in the beautiful Houston, Texas, my adopted hometown. You can go to defineyoulive.com for more information on the speakers, the event, and everything. This is our 3rd annual event, and it is time to crown up. So, with that being said, this month on Define You Radio, we are discussing domestic violence. Now, I know October, quote unquote, is domestic violence month, but we all know domestic violence is something that happens every day. Every day. In fact, last show, we discussed some of the alarming statistics, in which I will be giving you guys more statistics today. And you guys have to bear with me. For some reason, I'm a little tongue-tied. So tonight's show is with guest Tasheikya Hunter. She is one of the best-selling authors of Transition, Ashes, Emanating Beauty, and someone who has her own experience in domestic violence. So let's welcome Tasheikya to the show. Hey, Queen, how are you doing today?
Hey, how are you? I'm wonderful.
I'm doing great. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you, just in case they didn't catch you last time you were on Define You Radio.
Hello, I am Tasheikya Hunter. I am now one of the best-selling authors of Transitions, Ashes, Emanating Beauty. I am a courageous woman, which I call it, who am a survivor of domestic violence, of divorce, of being a teenage mother, and escaping the harshness and bitterness of having to work in the streets as work in the clubs is what they call a stripper to try to make ends meet. I think I just ought to share that tonight because that's where a lot of domestic violence do start at. And also, I am just an all-around, just every normal day woman that has used my struggles as obstacles to overcome in life, and I use them as not as being a victim, but as a victor, and I use each and every one of those struggles of my past experiences to just make myself better. That's who I am, and just in a nutshell.
in a big nutshell. Well, I learned something new about you with your intro. That's why I like guests that kind of intro themselves. I always learn something new because I didn't know that you were a stripper.
Yes, in my past life.
in your past life, but we're probably going to touch on that, especially if it relates to your domestic violence experience. So with
Yes.
that being said, I want to give you guys, I'm going to kick the show off almost with some statistics. And these statistics come from National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Their information is posted on the Define You Radio's Facebook page. Also, I gave it out last show because if you guys listened to the last show, we had a young man that got on the line and said that he was recovering from domestic violence. And I do encourage you, whether you are a male, female, regardless of what relationship you may be in, you may be being, having violence put upon you by your children or your mate or cousin. It's domestic. Don't underestimate that term or think that, because you're not a quote unquote typical situation that it doesn't apply to you. And I advise everybody to get help, whether you're in the situation now or have been. There is very much a healing process to that. So some statistics. 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men in the United States have been raped in their lifetime. This is a domestic violence statistic. Now, if you guys have been in that situation or know anyone that has, what have you, sometimes rape is very much a part of domestic violence. Okay, stalking is part of it. We know homicide it could lead to that. Another statistic this is children. 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year, and 90% of these children are witnesses to this violence. So when you think about a lot of times as kids grow up and they see this and this becomes normal to them, and then later in life, like I said, it becomes normal to them, and then they may end up in that situation. I myself witnessed domestic violence, and I also was in a domestic violence relationship. So do not underestimate that statistic and what your kids may witness and how it affects their lives. So I just wanted to drop a few statistics with that. Like I said, that comes from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So, Tasheikya.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us your domestic violence story?
Well, my domestic violence story started out, like you said, with one of the statistics is I experienced it right at my home before I even got into an intimate relationship. I was not actually, I can't even remember the story, but my grandmother and my grandfather, I was a young child, they actually, from what I understood, fought every day till it ended in his death. And then from there, and they say I was present when this happened, but I don't remember the event. But then from that, my grandmother soon got into another relationship, and that relationship was a domestic violence relationship where there was a lot of cuss words. She, called out her name. I witnessed her being hit on. My mom and my aunts, they would jump into the fights with her and her boyfriend, and it would just result in just to physical altercations and even gun violence. I mean, I've seen them shoot at this person, and it just was a horrible experience. And then growing up as a teenager, not the normal beatings, like you do something bad or your mom, scold you or something like that. But my situation was more of a beatings to where it was abusive, to where, I was in a situation where I had to go stay with my grandmother because of the basically domestic situation between my mom. As I recall, one of the events that took place is my mom telling me to lie to the police and tell them that she didn't hit me, that I got into a fight with some girls, And I remember lying for her so that she wouldn't go to jail. But it seemed like that's what's, as I trigger back to some of the moments when I got into the intimate relationship, it was like I was used to it. It was the norm. It was the norm with my grandmother and her boyfriend. It was the norm between me and my mom when it came to me being disciplined. It went too far. And then from there, by the time I got into the relationship with my ex-husband, it started out with just, me feeling guilty, like I did something wrong, that I caused him to hit me. And then I will hide it, of course, because I'm used to that, because I experienced that from my mom. And then the lying became more intense. And then from there, I just was lying for him all the time. And then he made me seem like it was my fault. The way I said something to him, it was my fault. So that part of it, became to be a mental abuse to me. It's because I just thought that I was this horrible person and that I the one caused this person to hit me and blacken my eyes. It was just, and I wanted to be in this relationship so bad. It's because all the things I saw around me from a child has always failed, or, it was always violent. So I wanted this situation to work. So I thought, if I talk nice in this nice way, that this person wouldn't attack me or hit me. But it didn't work. I mean, he's still, out of nowhere, I can say anything wrong, and then next thing I know, I got a black eye. Or, getting my teeth knocked out. And then, my mother them used to say to me, every time you get into a fight, and it's a real bad fight, then you have a baby. So it was like I had a baby, and then I let this person, which is my ex-husband, I let him just like suck up to me. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. And it became from being my issue to he had the problem. So then I went from accepting I was the problem to accepting he was the problem, but never really get into the root cause that nobody shouldn't be in that type of relationship. It's not cause for. And I remember one time being abused that I was being hit so hard in my face that I actually lost conscious. I could not hear in the room. I was being choked, and I was being hit in my face several times till both of my eyes were blackened. And I went to the hospital because I couldn't see. Somebody had to actually drive me. A friend had to drive me to the hospital. And I was full of willpower, like, okay, I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to leave. But it was just something that drew me back to him. I wanted to just, like, be with him just so bad. So, again, I get to the hospital. I, tell them that he did it, but when it came time for them to press charges on him, I would drop the charges every time. And it just became a vicious cycle. One time I was chasing after him, trying to get him to not leave me, and I received a knife wound that resulted in 22 stitches that almost actually decapitated, like, my wrist. And when I got to the hospital, they said 1 more inch that it would have cut into a main vein, which is in my wrist. And that time, I lied again for him. I said that I got into a fight at the strip club. So it was lying, blaming myself, accepting that he was the problem. And then when you asked earlier, when you asked, was I a stripper, and how did that relate to that, is because it got into the thing where he would use the strip club money as a means to not start a fight. So it was like, if I go make money and share it with him, right. So, and then the money, from the strip clubs came into, let's go make some money so I can, thank God it's past the limit of what is the statutory where I can't be convicted.
Yeah.
But
the statute
of
limitations.
Yes, that's what it's called. And it was like, let's go do that so that I can become this big drug dealer. And I was just so naive that I allowed him to allow me to go, work at the clubs as a stripper, to, try to, as quote unquote, make him this big drug dealer. And it just, nothing never worked. Nothing never worked.
So how did you, because I know you said X, so how did you get out of that situation? And then I'm going to circle back to a few things you said.
I had to come to find myself, and how I came to find myself is that I began to be around people that would believe in me, that actually started to build me up and to build my confidence up that, that I was not a bad person. And without those people in my corner, I don't think I actually would have left, and I would also say my faith, just having a spiritual relationship and praying and asking for that answer. And when I finally received it, that's when I knew that I had to do something different, and that it was life outside of him. I always imagined that it wasn't life outside of him, like life was him. It was like this picket white fence that we're gonna be married for the rest of our lives, we're gonna have these kids, and everything's gonna be beautiful, and this is the way life was gonna be. So when I began to find those friends and that strong friendship that didn't judge me,
right,
and that allowed me to be me, then I was able to find myself.
In the process of this, while you were still with him, did you ever try to, call like a domestic violence hotline, or maybe talk to somebody about what was going on, or were you secretive about it?
It wasn't a secret. I mean, the family knew about it. That's the funny thing. It was almost like it was normal.
So they didn't, nobody didn't say, girl, you better leave that man, or anything of that nature? Like nobody said anything?
Well, they would say leave, but it was almost like a catch-22 situation. As I mentioned, I come from domestic violence with my family. So even though they would say leave, it was like I was leaving to go back to be right up under their bondage.
Right.
And that's why I said it wasn't until I met outside friends that was not family, that didn't judge me, didn't try to use like my kids or my car or, things against me to kind of like keep me into another bondage situation, is where I was able to see that I could make it.
Wow. So it's something you said, like you talked about how you would end up dropping the charges or lying to the police. I know, and you're in Michigan, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I know, like here in Louisiana, when I was going through my domestic violence situation, in Louisiana, you can't drop the charges. The state will pick it up, because I would try, like I would call the police just to like get him out the house, or just to show him that, I'll call the police. I don't care. And then, my ex would talk me into dropping the charges, but the state of Louisiana would pick it up. So that's, and I'm guessing, that probably varies state to state as laws change and different things like that change, if the state will pick it up, because as when people are in those situations, and if you guys know anything about domestic violence situations, whether you're in one or know someone that's in one, it's very much a mind game. It's very much I'm going to hit you because you did this. And I'm sorry. And then you feel bad. So then you're like, I don't want him to go to jail. So, you know, you do try to drop the charges, you know. So that's very interesting. But like I said, I guess it varies from state to state with, you know, with them picking up the charges, and not saying that helped me get out of the situation, because it didn't. Because, you know, the state here, you know, the state here, and my situation was about 16, 14. It was a while ago. So I don't know how the laws are here now, whether they're probably more strict, because it's basically like almost like a fine, so to speak. And then you have to deal with the stalking, which is what I want to get into next, because what I do know, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, but what I do know is that one of the most dangerous times in a domestic violence situation is when you leave.
Yes.
Is when you leave.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at these statistics here, and it's about stalking. So it says 60.8% of female stalking victims and 43.5% men report being stalked by a current or former intimate partner. So that means, you know, you finally, you know, decided to leave, then that's a whole other thing. Because frankly, and let's be honest, a lot of people look at restraining orders as just being a piece of paper. And that's sad, but I do recommend, in my situation, I did get the restraining order. And it was more to protect me if I would have had to defend myself. That way it was recorded. And I think a lot of women or men think, you know, well, a restraining order isn't going to work. A restraining order isn't going to work. It depends on how you look at it, because God forbid if something happens, that those police reports and that restraining order could be the difference of self-defense and murder or whatever, or however you may have to defend yourself. So that's just the reality of it. So when you left, okay, so you started finding yourself and started getting with outside people to help build you up. So what was your next step? Because y'all had kids together, and in my situation, we didn't have any kids together. So it was still hard, but it was kind of easier for me to leave. So how did you handle that? Because y'all did have kids together.
That was the most difficult part of the situation, because that's when things got real. It's like I said, it was like life and death situations that I was put in because of the kids. You know, when I left, it was like I had to go into full defense mode. I had to go get a CCW. Like you said, I had to go get the personal protection order, because he was known for carrying guns. And it was like, you know, threats put on my life. And I was, like you said, I didn't want to be the one who has a murder one charge, being, you know, somebody in my family experienced that. I didn't want to have to go through that, and I wanted to protect myself. So I would try to get stuff on record as much as possible to, you know, to prove that if something did happen, I was innocent.
Right.
So with the children being said, they experienced it firsthand of him, you know, coming to the house, stalking, you know, waiting till I get out the car, coming in behind me, you know, and the kids would see it, and he just really just didn't care. You know, it was a situation one time where I grabbed for my gun, but it jammed, and the kids were in the house, and he basically told the kids to go play. And he was, we tussled in the room, and I thought I was going to die that night because he took I had a hoodie on, and he took it and just tried to suffocate me. And only thing I remember saying is I just kept repeating, I plead the blood of Jesus, and he finally let me go. And he just ran out the apartment.
So this was after you left.
This is after I left. So the stalking is real.
Right.
It's real. Don't take it for granted. Watch your back when you get out the car. Don't just be in, la-da-da-da-da, because that's how it happened to me. Yes, it did.
How old were your kids when you left?
My son was 4, and my daughter was 8. And then my oldest daughter, I have 3 children. My oldest daughter was 12. And still to this day, my oldest daughter, she has some detachment issues with, making friends. She don't like to be close to people. And she's just like, she keeps to herself a lot. My son, he doesn't remember it, and my daughter, she just doesn't, like the middle one, she doesn't really, I think, in my opinion, really doesn't understand, like, why we left. She just thought, okay, Daddy was just mad.
So did they see the violence firsthand? Like, were they in the room at any points in time this happened, or was it like kind of behind closed doors thing?
With the 2 younger kids, it was more behind closed doors, but the oldest child witnessed it firsthand from the time she was 3 to 12.
Have you
Yes, she did.
had that discussion with them, like a real talk discussion with them about, what happened, how this is not okay, so that way as they go into relationships, they know that this is not normal?
Yes. After I left, when my oldest one, she was the first one I talked to, and of course, she was, her first reaction was, I don't know why you stayed for so long. It was more like she encouraged me, like it was okay.
Right.
Like, I don't understand, like, why. But my youngest one, it was the youngest two. It was harder to convince them, and it's still a struggle to this day. So I encourage women that, you can never, you don't want to turn your child away from their other parent if it is, in fact, that's their parent. But just to get them to understand that it's not okay to do that can sometimes be challenging, especially when they didn't witness firsthand. Because it's like it's your word against the other parent. And it's still to this day, I feel like I still struggle with getting them to understand what happened, the younger two that didn't really witness it.
Because your kids are grown now, right?
Well, my son, the youngest one, he's only 14, and my daughter,
Okay.
the middle daughter, she's 18, and the oldest one that witnessed it firsthand, she's 22. But the 18-year-old, Daddy is still Daddy. And
so they do have a
son,
relationship with him.
Well, my youngest son, because he left so young, his father don't have any type of relationship with him. And the middle daughter, she grew up in the house with her dad, and when we left, even though everything was going on and it was chaotic, she wanted to, like, be with the dad. And that's the part that I'm talking about, the manipulating part. I was the victim in the situation, but he painted this picture to her like he was the victim. And then it became like she was torn between, it was like I could feel her being me in the situation, being manipulated. And it got so bad that he actually used her to try to start a child protective service case against me just to get back at me. This is after I left, because he basically wanted to paint this picture to the middle child that I was the bad person, not him. And so it was, like I said, for any woman that's in this situation and you have kids, you got to think about your kids. It's because you can heal, but your kids, the way they heal, you can never get that back. And it's always, I'm not going to say always, but for me, it seems like I see the middle child struggle with some issues, and I think it's because, okay, this parent says this, well, this parent say that. Is this her word against his? I love both of them, and I'm caught in the middle. And nobody's trying to, make the child hate their parent. You teach them, like, okay, he did something wrong, but, I forgive him. That's how I have to come off all the time. I forgive him, which I truly do, because I'm not in the situation anymore. But it's still difficult. So.
Yeah. Did you work during that time? And how long were you in that relationship?
I was in that relationship for 12 years, from the time I was 17 till I was 30. And working in between that time, like I said, I worked at the strip club for about 3 or 4 years, and then I, finally tried to break away from that lifestyle and try to get a real job. So I worked in between that time, but my attitude at work, from my attitude now, was horrible. I think I had this, like, raw attitude, like anybody come at me any type of way because I was going through this at home. It just was a bad attitude. I was the victim in everything. Like, I can't believe this person said this to me. Why she look at me like that? And it was just a horrible attitude.
I mean, being in a domestic violence situation affects your whole being. And the reason why I asked you about work, because, did your coworkers know, and did anybody ever say anything to you about it? Because I know when I was in my domestic violence situation, my coworkers that I knew, everybody knew. I'm like 99.9% sure of that. But my coworkers I was close to, we would talk about it, and they would notice, when my makeup was extra heavy and everything. So did anyone you worked with ever say, girl, what's going on? Do you need somebody to talk to? What was that like?
During the last couple of years of the relationship, he was so overprotective to where I couldn't have no friends. Talking to people on the phone like he was right in the room. Couldn't go to the grocery store by myself. Couldn't go to I'm going to cut your hair. Couldn't go to the beauty salon. But I had this one boss that knew. I didn't tell her. She just said, I don't know, when you let go of that fool, you're going to be a better person.
Right.
But I used to be like, I don't know, you don't know what you're talking about. It was so much that it was no relief to even talk to anybody about it. He actually started working at the same place I worked at.
Wow.
And it became not the type of abuse that people can actually see on the outside. He started being, it was more mental at this time, and body blows. And what I mean by that will be, I'm just going to hit you in your ribs when nobody ain't going to be able to see that. Or just, and then that's where the mental abuse started towards the end. People was used to what happened to me. Like I said, I got my teeth knocked out. I had my eyes black. I had the 22 stitches that I lied about, but it was like I said towards the end. It was, I don't like that girl. You can't talk to her, because he knew I was getting stronger. So it was like he didn't want me to even talk to nobody.
Do you think, because I know you have, forgiven him for the kid's sake, so to speak. But I guess at this point, like, does he admit to his fault? Like, have you guys had that conversation in any way, shape, or form where maybe he came back and said, you know what, I had some issues, I apologize, or is he like wash his hands with it, complete denial about that situation?
He's in still complete denial because, like I said, he doesn't, reach out to his children.
Right.
My son is his only son, and he's, like I said, he's in still complete denial. We stay in the same state here in city in Flint, Michigan, and it's just no contact. I don't even have his number. I don't even think he knows what school his son goes to. Like my daughters, I shouldn't say they forced themselves upon them, but I don't think if they reached out to him, he wouldn't call them.
Have you ran across him by accident I don't know how big Flint is, but have you ran across him since you left?
Oh, yes. Yes. In the beginning, if I ran across him, it was violence. It was violence for actually, 4 years after I left. 4 years.
That's how long he stalked you?
Stalked me, bogus court allegations. He basically tried to destroy me after I left. That was the words out of his mouth. So, after the 4 years, 2012, moving forward, I left in 2007. As I see him now, people know us in the community. Flint is small, so it's small. The police even know me. It's sad, because they came to my house so many times for domestic violence. I think when I went and got all the 911 reports, because I just wanted to see how many times did I call the police. And I think I called over, it was 40 times.
Wow.
Yes, it took them a week to gather all the police reports that had been ever filed in the situation. And I wanted them as a reminder, don't ever go back into that situation.
Understood.
You see that big old file, do not go back. Put that in a box, seal it away. But as a reminder, go get all of it and read what you see. Go back and read it. And just to see, the foolishness that where I was at that time is just, it wasn't cause for.
And it makes sense when you're in the situation and doesn't at the same time. Because I know with me, as a woman and, maybe, I would love to get a man on, even if it's anonymously, just to really talk about it from a man's point of view, because as women, it's a little bit more common, but I think only because we talk about it more. And I know when I pulled those, I think it was last year, and I posted them on Facebook because I still had the restraining order paperwork, and I was reading it. And even though this was, 2001, up in that area, I was getting mad all over again. I'm like, you know what? I feel like I need to kind of go find him. I had to pray because I was like, how dare you treat me like a dog? Really, that was what I read. And I, like you, I kept them because I wanted that reminder that, because that was the first and only domestic violence relationship I was in. And it was so traumatizing. I'm reading the police reports of when my son, because that was one of the first things I taught Cameron was how to call 911. And, when he called 911 at 2-3 years old, not knowing, just knowing he needed to call, like I got mad all over again. And I'm going to tell you what happened. And it's no longer on the page, but I posted the police reports on Define You Radio's Facebook page last year. And some kind of way, this man, my ex, made a comment on that. And he said, his exact words was like, I'm so sorry for what I put you through. I was drinking. Hope you could forgive me and everything, something of that nature. And I left it up for like 2-3 days. I let one of my friends see it and everything else. But every time I looked at it, like it made me angry. It made me angry. And because number one, we're not friends. So why, like I went through this whole mental thing. And so finally I just went ahead and blocked him, of course, and deleted it because last time I saw him was when I left. He broke in my apartment. He peed on my clothes, right? He pulled all my clothes out the closet. He peed on my clothes. So I filed a police report. When the police found him, he was extra drunk, on the railroad tracks on his way to my job. And they called me because, of course, at that time they were looking for him from him breaking in my apartment. And they called me to identify him. He was so drunk in front of the police. He was like, I'm going to kill that bee. He was saying that in front of the police. So, of course I went there and got out the car and I was like, yes, that's him. And you could hear, and when he saw me, you could hear him just steadily hollering across the parking lot at the police station, I'm going to kill her and all of this and everything else. And of course he was acting rowdy and everything else with the police. So throwing him in jail was like no problem. But like I discussed on the last show, every time I did put him in jail, his job bailed him out.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's not like they didn't know what he was in there for. And this is not like it was some $1 million CEO type of job either. But every time his job bailed him out. And, I get chills thinking about it, but I'll never forget that day. That was, like I will never forget that day because I'm like, what if he would have made it to my job? Because the railroad tracks weren't that far from the job I worked at the time. And if he was that drunk that he halfway was passed out on the railroad tracks, which is what made somebody else call the police, what if he would have made it to my job?
Wow.
So, but we're going to...
I have another story. Oh, go ahead. No,
I was going to say, I'm going to talk more about my story on next week's show. I will be in my feelings. You might hear some anger in my voice because it just makes me angry that anybody, whether it's a man doing it to a woman or another man, whether it's a woman doing it to a man, because I have known men that were in those situations also. But anytime you hit somebody like with your full force, like you're fighting somebody on the street, like something, you need to go talk to somebody. That's not normal. So go ahead, Tasheikya. I had got my feelings for a minute, girl. I had like a flashback.
No, you gotta let it out because people have to really. It's not about me. I'm in a place to where I can say because I'm in a better place now. But I mean, it depends, what situation I'm talking about because I have many stories, But the story I'm gonna share is, when I had left, I was at the club. And I'm so happy to be gone. I'm out this situation. I see him at the club, and me I'm feeling sorry for him because I'm drunk. Let me add that. And I'm like, it's going to be okay. You know, you can go on with your life, you know. And he caught me slipping and said, well, just let's talk about it. I'm not going to harm you. It's going to be okay. So don't get women, whoever, man, don't get caught up with that. It's going to be okay. I promise I ain't going to do nothing to you. You know, I just want to talk. So me being crazy, because I'm drunk, get in the car with this fool. And when I get in the car, at first it's just all good. We just talking. But then he starts up the car and plans to take me to his house. He takes my cell phone, breaks it in half, so I can't call 911. But thank God I got a little bit of military training. Don't you know when the cell phone break, the bottom part still work. It was a flip phone. That's a long. It was a flip phone. I called 911. They could still hear him saying what he gonna do to me. And they dispatched with my cell phone tower to try to find me. So when he was talking and going ranting and raving, I was starting to take off my shoes in his car, and he slowed down the car just enough to turn the corner. And I jumped out the car, and I had to run and go hide in this lady's bushes.
Wow.
And I knocked and banged on this woman's door, and she would not let me in her house. I had just on a sundress from the club with no shoes on. And he unloaded a 9mm gun and unloaded the clip, yelling out my name. B, where you at? I'm going to kill you. I was planning to take you to my house and kill you. And as I could hear him unloading that gun, you know, the liquor about that time had sobered up. And I just like, how did I let this fool trick me? You know, so, you know, even though you out, don't let your emotions, you know, feeling sorry for the person, think that you can talk to them, because you can't talk to the devil. Ain't no talking to the devil. It's no talking to nobody that's evil. When they evil, they evil. So don't think you can, you know. So I got caught slipping with that. So I want to just say, don't do that.
But
so I literally. Go ahead.
I was going to say it does happen because, and it sounds crazy now, guys, and if y'all know me in any way, shape, or form, I am a strong woman, okay? And please believe being a strong woman has nothing to do, that doesn't make you any less strong if you are in a domestic violence situation, because that's exactly what it is. It's a situation. It is not your life. But I remember him playing those, you know, my ex playing those emotional games. I was feeling sorry because I'm like, you know, now he's lonely and by himself, and, you know, like I'm feeling guilty, because I left him by himself, and he's, you know, and I'll never forget, because when I left, I went and stayed with my baby sister, and I remember like that first week that I was like officially gone, I cried myself to sleep every night, and I didn't understand why. How can you miss the devil literally? Literally. And so then I was like, something is really, you know, really wrong with me. But I cried because I was like missing him. And if you could see the look on my face, this is one of the reasons why I don't do the radio show live. But you know, because some of the faces I make, guys, I'm telling you, but the look on my face right now is utter disgust. But I cried myself to sleep at least for a week and debated on going back because I missed him. And Valencia, you could handle it, but because that missing it's like an emptiness. But what it is because you have literally lost something. And I think that's probably why a lot of people go back, because that loss that you feel is for you to start putting something in there, start building your self-esteem and your confidence up. That's what that loss is about. It's not the loss of the relationship and you to feel the relationship back in that hole. No, that's where those pieces of you that were broken and shattered in that relationship, that's where that's supposed to go. That's my 2 cents.
Yes, and to just piggyback on that, a lot of times I don't even think it's the part that you miss them. I think that whole, like, I think a part of you began to be okay with the drama. I think that it becomes your reality, and that you don't think that there's no other reality but that every day. So I think that a part of you, the drama part that you've created, is looking for that turmoil, and the part of you that is not used to peace is like fish out of water. Like, what do I do? Where do I go? It's no drama today. And so normally fish that's out of water, they go back to the water, which is the bad relationship. So I think that for anybody that's looking to get out of that situation, you got to see yourself happy first. That's going to be number one. If you don't see yourself happy, it's going to be hard when you finally do get out of the situation. Because I write in the book that even after I left, years after I left, I would wake up in the middle of the night and scream to the top of my lungs, like, where am I at? Like, I was, like, lost in the desert. And I knew that I had to begin to see myself in a different situation. Although I was out of it, if you think of it, 12 years, it's like 12 years of slavery. It's almost like the slave mentality that some people still carry on to this day. You can't put yourself in that reality anymore because nobody's not there, Right. So I just, I think people, that's going to be key, is prepare to see yourself happy. That preparation is key. It took me 3 years to even prepare to say that I was going to leave. And I'm like you. If you know me, I'm a feisty person. I'll fight you in a minute. But when it came to that situation, I fight you in a minute, your mama and everybody else. But when it came to that situation, it just like had a hold on me.
Yeah. It's different. I don't know exactly how to explain it. And a direct quote from one of my aunts, because even though my family knew I was in that situation, even though I thought I hid it well, nobody said anything until I got out of the situation, right? Which is so funny to me. Like, nobody said nothing until I got out. And my aunt was like, well, I just couldn't believe you were in that situation because you would fight a lion. And okay, so why you didn't say this to me while I was in the situation? Maybe I needed a reminder of that. But for the longest time, and I said this the last show, I didn't admit to myself that I was in a domestic violence situation because we were going toe to toe. We were like, okay, something we say here in the South. I don't know if people say it other places, but it was like knuckle up, like.
Oh, that's how I was.
So I'm thinking, okay, you hit me hard, I'm gonna hit you hard as I'm gonna hit you hard. We go, he had braids, I had tracks. You pull my tracks, I'm gonna pull your braids. So I'm really just equating that situation, just like it's not domestic violence. It's just two people fighting. It's just us fighting, and I could handle myself. I don't know, and it's crazy. I'm telling you, I'm catching flashbacks maybe because of next week's show. Let me bring it back. But it is. And then I think also when you are a strong woman, it's almost like you're in denial because you're strong. So how my strong self, get in this relationship? And you think you can handle it because you're a soldier, you're strong. We give birth to babies. How I can't handle this man? But you're not supposed to, not in that way.
Right.
Go ahead, Tasheikya. I can't even say nothing else.
No,
right now.
you fine. And one of my fears was that I did not want to become my grandmother. Still to this day, I would actually back down and get beat up. I wasn't knuckling up with him. I would actually back down is because I knew a part of me would kill him. I mean, it was one time that I actually shot at him and I missed.
Mm.
So for me, it was more or less, I better tone down, is because I know I have the ability to kill him.
Right.
Like, I know me, like the devious side of me. Like, oh, this Negro gonna
Like,
go
I
to
cook
sleep.
your food.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
go
cook
kill.
your food. It wasn't Google back then, but I knew about arsenic.
Yeah.
You know.
So I, for me, you know, and then my family, you know, I remember one time, you know, when I said about they called it a kidnapping. Because they said when it came time, actually that's the charges they put on his kidnapping when he took me in the car like I described. And like here in Michigan, I couldn't drop that charge, you know. And
right,
so they made him stay yes. So they made him stayed in jail for about a week. But then when it came time after the state charges was, you know, I think really like the state of Michigan, it's like call it a cool down period, 72, and they can hold you up to 72 hours. So, or they'll send you to court, and then after that, it's more or less like you said, a fine. Like you stay away from her, you know, and don't go back over there no more. You know, y'all move or something like that. But this time, my family encouraged me, and I can't call my mom a bad person for this. You know, I can see her reasoning now. You know, maybe why she told me to drop the charges. She was like, because my mom grew up and she was a part of a domestic violence situation with her mom and my grandfather, and basically, you know, she was a teenager when he died, and she basically, you know, lost her dad when she was 17. So she told me, if you press charges, you know, on him, your kid's gonna grow up without a father like me. Me being in my emotions again. You know, I remember when the detective called me, I told him drop the charges, and they were gonna take him away this time they were gonna take him to trial. It's because they heard the 911 call,
right,
and it was proof. But my mom encouraged me to drop the charges. And because I didn't grow up without a father, I'm like, I was being emotional again, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't. You don't want your kids to not grow up with a father, and you don't want you strong enough, like you said, you portray this image. I'm the strong woman. You know, I can get over it. I'm a tough girl. I'm a tough cookie. But you don't want them to say my mama and my daddy was fighting, and basically because he did such and such to her, now he's doing 10 years in prison. And so I dropped the charges. But when I think back over, look at it now, you know, excuse my French, he ain't in there dying life not nowhere.
Right.
So women, men, can't use that neither. Can't use your past experience and your emotions to try to dictate, you know how some people say follow your heart, but I say don't. There was some stuff that feel right ain't right. You got to do what's right, because even though you think your heart tells you that's right, your heart may be wrong, because your heart to me is flaky. Because I mean, he ain't doing nothing for the son nowhere now. So what difference would it have made if I would have sent him where he was supposed to go? I'm just saying. So
what they say,
that's my other point.
Hindsight, that's your other point. Hindsight is 20/20, and all of those quotes in that way. That's the truth. And if I look back, and guys, I know we have like 2 minutes left in the show, but you know, it's my show, so we may go a minute or two over, because this is a very important topic, and some things need to be discussed, because domestic violence is very much an issue. And you know, you see reports of people dying and losing their life every day, and those are the things that we know. And another statistic, on a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines. Those are the phone calls. But a lot of times, some women or men don't even do that. They don't even do that. So before we kind of roll out and close the show, I want to ask you this. Relationships since then. Because if I'm not, wait, are you married now? I think you are. Are you?
Yes, I'm married now. Yes, I am.
Did y'all have to have that discussion in the beginning? Like, look, I've been in a domestic violence situation. If you get loud with me, I might, I'm gun shy or whatever the correct terminology, because I do believe after a domestic violence situation, there is a period of PTSD almost.
Yes. So yes, we didn't actually have to have that conversation, because for my situation, my new husband was one of my people in my corner telling me, "You're better than that. How dare you let any man treat you like that? Now, how dare you let your children see that man treat you like that?" So he treats me like a queen, like I'm supposed to be treated. He doesn't even raise his voice at all to me. Never has. And we've been together for 10 years and never one day.
Well, congratulations, number one. And I would definitely say this, that I remember when I left, there was definitely a period of PTSD. Like, you breathed hard on me, I'm going to assume, and it might lead to me hitting you type situation. But I know I wasn't healed then, and the healing took time. When me and my husband started dating, and I told him, that part of my life, that, we discussed that. But when he read the actual restraining orders, when I pulled them out last year, he got in his feelings a bit, basically like a man hit my wife, even though, of course, I wasn't his wife then. But it is definitely, that's why I encourage people to definitely talk to somebody and get that healing, because you're almost always on defense. It's like a reflex. It's like a reflex. You get, somebody will catch the wrong reflex because you haven't healed. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents on that. Tasheikya, thank you so much for being on the show, and go ahead and give the audience, I don't know, any tips that you may have for them if they are in that situation, and also let them know how they can connect with you.
Sure. The only tip I want to leave out there is get some good people that trust in you in your corner, and you can reach me at mahunter77@gmail.com, and my social media sites is Tasheikya Hunter, so you can reach me on Facebook there. But that's going to be the number one thing I want to leave with you guys. Get good people in your corner that believe and trust in you.
Well, thank you so much for that. And guys, her information is on the Define You Radio's Facebook page. So you just click on her name. You can find her that way. But I will make sure, you guys connect with her and Miss Evelyn from last week, who just posted a comment on the Facebook page that says, "No woman should have to come home and fist fight their man." Or
Amen.
No man should, hashtag amen. Thank you for that, Evelyn. And I want to encourage anyone that is in that situation. Like I said earlier, it is a situation. There is life on the other side of domestic violence. And even if, don't say, "Oh, he just cusses me out sometimes," or "He just calls me," he doesn't hit me, he just calls me out my name sometimes and embarrasses me at work. That's still domestic violence.
Yeah.
I will go ahead and post all the different types of domestic violence and the signs, because, it's isolation, it's and you think it's cute because he's jealous, that he doesn't want you around other people. Isolation is one of those first clues that this may end up into a more serious situation. So I want to put that on you guys' mind. Mrs. Hunter, thank you so much for coming on Define You Radio again. You already know you're part of the family here. I look forward to seeing what you got. Yay! I look forward to seeing what you got up next. And thank you so much for being so transparent, especially because the statute of limitations have run out. Thank you for being so transparent and honest and sharing your story. So thank you again for that. Well, guys, it's the end of the show. Thank you for listening. Pens and papers down. Class is officially over. Make sure you join us next week as we continue our series on domestic violence. The number for the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence is posted on Define You Radio's Facebook page. Get help, even if it's just calling somebody and getting it off your chest. Sometimes when you say it out loud, it gives you a different insight into the situation. So with that being said, guys, thank you again for listening. I will see you next week, same time, same place. Have a great week, and remember, only you can define you.
Thanks for listening to Define You Radio. Class is in session. Connect with the show at www.defineyouradio.com. Pens and papers down. Class is over.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.